setting, I usually, or rather, I stopped doing live streams here at the office because I felt like the internet was bad, but it seems good today. Hopefully, it's not for a short period of time and then it decides to stop working properly while I'm busy streaming. But at the very least, it's me trying to have a conversation with you guys. So um, it's really nothing important like predictions or something like that. It's basically my opinion about this whole Jon Jones situation because a lot of people have varying opinions about this whole topic, and basically I'm trying to weigh in and give my opinion on this whole situation. Um, so yeah, Jon Jones. Normally, I prefer to. I see someone online. I don't know if it's a regular watcher of the stream, but nonetheless, maybe I'll start just so that I can give my opinions. So the Jon Jones situation and Tom Aspinall. Um, in all honesty, I think it's a little bit complicated. I know that it makes more sense for people to feel like Jon Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall, but if you listen to what Jon Jones is saying, um, I view it a little bit differently than most people because to me, especially because I do predictions, right? So to me, when we look at someone's age, like for example, Jon Jones is like 37 years old. When I do predictions, I take things like that into consideration. So, for example, right now, Jim Miller is fighting someone who's like 36. Is it? Who's this guy? Damon Jackson. Yeah, he's fighting Damon Jackson. A lot of people who are picking Damon Jackson are not picking Damon Jackson because they feel like Damon Jackson is the better fighter. A lot of the people who are picking Damon Jackson are picking Jackson largely because of his age. So Jon Jones, no, maybe I started too deep in the conversation for people who don't know what's happening, but I think any MMA fan already knows about this particular topic. But let me just give a brief summary. So basically, if you don't know, I don't know where you've been living, but Tom Aspinall is the interim champion. Jon Jones is the undisputed heavyweight champion. So Jon Jones is basically saying he is not going to fight Tom Aspinall, largely because of a variety of reasons. But I personally feel like um, his Tom Aspinall's endorsement and association with the MMA guru, I think, played a factor into Jon Jones' decision to actually not fight Tom Aspinall. Because if you recall, MMA guru made a video about Jon Jones calling him gay and all these type of things. So if you listen to what Jon Jones was saying in the pre-fight press conference, I'm going to come back to the age, but if you listen to what Jon Jones was saying in the pre-fight, but again, press conference, Jon Jones was basically saying that he's not up for going through the, what do you call it, the media and everything, like the things that have to be done when promoting a pay-per-view with Tom Aspinall, because he knows for a fact that the MMA guru will be making content on that particular topic, and obviously he is on Tom Aspinall's side, and obviously he's going to continuously perpetuate the idea that Jon Jones is gay and all these type of things, and obviously Tom Aspinall also agreed to do an interview according to the MMA guru. He agreed to do an interview with the MMA guru. So I think those type of things are not helping his case, considering the fact that Jon Jones. I don't think it goes without saying Jon Jones has a problem with the MMA guru. So the fact that Tom Aspinall associated himself with the MMA guru, I think it hurt his possibilities of fighting Jon Jones. So back to what I was saying basically about Jon Jones basically ducking, what do you call him, Tom Aspinall. For me personally, like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, I feel like there's a lot of things that go into fighting, and being in your youth is one of the most important things, especially if you are fighting at the championship level. So, Jon Jones, according to him, he's saying that, well, at the age of 37, he shouldn't be taking on young and upcoming prospects. Instead, he wants exciting fights, he wants fun fights. Hypothetically speaking, Jon Jones decides to fight Tom Aspinall, and then Tom Aspinall beats Jon Jones, right? Let's say hypothetically, Tom Aspinall beats Jon Jones, and then in the next two, three fights, or let's say three fights, Tom Aspinall loses the belt. I'm sure a lot of people will say Jon Jones was not as great as people made him out to be, forgetting the fact that Jon Jones was 37 years old. I'm one of the people who are criticizing people like Colby Covington, right? And we like to forget this. A lot of MMA fans like to pick and choose their argument as far as who is good based on what. So I'm one of the people who criticize Kobe Covington's wins on his record because I felt like Kobe Covington has the legends that are on Kobe Covington's resume were old at the time that Kobe Covington was beating them. If you go back on Kobe Covington's resume, a lot of people who, well, people like the only young person that Kobe Covington beat was like, I think it was RDA, and he was moving up from weight. Apart from that, Kobe Covington has been busy beating up old legends, and a lot of people have been. Who gonna win between Denise, Jonathan, and Martin Taibura? If you're new to the channel, by the way, I realize that my normal subscribers are not online. So if you're new to the channel, there are predictions and statistics all over the channel. There are risky and safe predictions on the video section. If you want quick predictions, there are also quick predictions in the short section. So to answer your question, all gamer, I think it's going to be Jonathan Deniz, but it's going to be very close because I feel like he doesn't have like a really good ground game. So back to the topic that I was speaking about. I'm one of the people who have been criticizing Kobe Covington for fighting older fighters. I view Jon Jones as one of the older fighters that I've been criticizing Colby Covington of beating. So for me personally, even if somehow Tom Aspinall manages to beat Jon Jones, in my personal opinion, I don't feel like it's going to be a quality win, to be honest, largely because he's beating a 37-year-old Jon Jones. He's not beating a Jon Jones who's in his prime. And on top of that, Jon Jones is not particularly big for the division, right? I know this is not a popular opinion, but let's say hypothetically speaking, if Ilya Tuporia knocked out Alexander Volkanovski when he was like 37 years old, I'm sure a lot of people would be saying, well, he was old, like it doesn't really count. The same way they say about a couple of other people, right? If Islam Makhachev beat Charles Oliveira when he was 37 years old, the people would be discrediting that. There are a couple of people who have beaten like really decent. For example, Israel Adesanya. Is there anyone like if you are honest with yourself and you're not being a follower or anything like that? If you're honest with yourself, do you think Israel Adesanya's win over Anderson Silva is a quality win? Like, in all honesty, do you think, because Israel Adesanya beat Anderson Silva, Jake Paul beat Anderson Silva, so do you think those two wins are basically the same as when Anderson Silva was like 31, 32? They're not the same, unfortunately. And even though it's different at heavyweight, I still feel like age is age. And I know in my predictions, I do breakdowns on this channel. I do live breakdowns if you're new to the channel. I know I said that when I was breaking down the fight between Stipe and Jon Jones, I made the example between Glover Teixeira as well as Stipe Miocic. I was like, if Glover Teixeira was able to achieve what he achieved, and I think he was like 43, 44, something like that. He was really older than, actually a couple of years older than Stipe Miocic. Actually, he is still obviously a couple of years older than Stipe Miocic. So if ever, for example, Glover Teixeira could actually perform how he did, I think Stipe will actually perform decently well as well. Before I continue, Jon Jones doesn't need to fight Aspinall. It's still a tricky conversation. I agree with you. Who's the guy? Vulcan Servetes. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name properly. I both agree and disagree with you. I don't know how long you've been on the stream, but yo, what's up with Ramiz and Mickey Galbao? Ramiz got low cardio and Mickey Gal is out of form. Um, okay, I'll answer your questions and get back to the topic. So once again, I don't know if you've been watching the stream for since I started. I apologize for repeating myself too many times, but there are people who don't know anything about the channel. So there are quick predictions on the channel in the shorts section, and then there are risky and safe predictions. If you want to confidence on the picks, right? You can go to the video section on the channel. There are risky and safe predictions. There are so many more. Like there are Robert predictions, there are IQ predictions, there are cardio predictions, there are finishing rates. There's so many things on the channel. There are statistics on the short section of the channel. There are subscribers picks. Actually, last week my subscribers and I got 100% in predictions because I realized that a couple of you are new to the channel. So last week, my subscribers and I got 11 out of 11 of the fights correct, which was incredible. So I don't want to break down the fights. On this particular stream, I just want to focus on Jon Jones, but I do live streams. I do them on Wednesday are final predictions, and Friday, which is tomorrow, those are upsets predictions where basically I tell you the fights where I feel like I'm not too confident in them. So back to the topic. Let me answer the questions in the comment section. Okay, I think I answered that. Where was I about this particular topic? Oh, I was answering Volcano. So he is saying Jon Jones does not have to fight Tom Aspinall. For me, I'm still in between, even though I'm trying to make a point for Jon Jones to say he's a little bit older. At the same time, you can't dispute the fact that it looks like he's ducking. But again, Tom Aspinall. That's how it looks, unfortunately. And I don't know if it's just a look. I think, in actual fact, I think that the thing that people are not remembering about Jon Jones is that he's been very honest throughout his career. Not honest outside of his career. Let me explain what I mean by that. Before, remember when Jon Jones was having an argument with the UFC about his pay and everything like that, and Francis Ngannou was the champion at that time. Dana White even was even saying, well, if I was Jon Jones, I would be moving to middleweight because him and Adesanya were having a beef, a little bit of a beef back then. So if you remember correctly, around the time, Jon Jones was saying, well, I think Jon Jones is scared of almost every single opponent he fights, right? Because I feel like maybe that's something that motivates him. I don't know, but he outrightly said that he needs to make sure that his money so that if Francis Ngannou knocks him out, I can't remember the interview. I think he was doing an interview with the Schmo, if I remember correctly, where he said this. I think they were in like a van or something like that. It looked like an average or normal studio. It looked like a van or something like that, if I remember correctly. If you look for this interview, you can probably find it. Jon Jones in that particular interview was like, the UFC needs to pay me because I'm my life on the line. And he was still talking about the legacy things and his career, what he has achieved. And he was even encouraging other promotions outside of the UFC to actually offer him something because he was willing to actually fight for other promotions for the right price. So he actually outrightly said that he feels like he's taking a massive risk at fighting Francis Ngannou, and if he gets knocked out, he needs to make sure that he's paid for that. So he said that during his dispute with the UFC, and that's one of the things that people I think are overlooking. They feel like Jon Jones being honest about this particular fight with Tom Aspinall is the first time Jon Jones has ever expressed any concern about his opponent. I think it also speaks to, and it also explains why Jon Jones is regarded as one of the greatest athletes, or rather the greatest fighters, the greatest MMA fighter in history, largely because of his fight IQ and the ability to actually know when your ability to win in a fight is not as high as usual, right? So he acknowledges that he might actually lose against Tom Aspinall. For me personally, I don't think that's it's not necessarily him being afraid. It's just him being honest, and it's actually him giving props to Tom Aspinall to say that he recognizes that Tom Aspinall is probably one of the most dangerous fighters in the UFC. So his biggest concern, I feel like it's like, and he said it, I'm just repeating his words. He was like, okay, cool, I fight him. Let's say I beat Tom Aspinall, what do I get in return? And for someone who has achieved what Jon Jones has achieved, it makes a little bit more sense because um, when you look at the win against Cyril Gahn right now, a lot of people are trashing that win. I'm I'm one of those people who are trashing that win because we are all saying, well, Cyril Gahn cannot wrestle, right? So if Jon Jones beats Tom Aspinall, I'm 100% sure that there are going to be people who are like, well, Tom Aspinall, who has he beaten? Like, he hadn't beaten any champions. And even Jon Jones said the same thing. He was like, once I beat Tom Aspinall, the win will be treated the same way the Cyril Gahn win is being treated. It won't do anything for my legacy. And for me personally, I'm leaning towards agreeing with what he's saying. Okay, Yakuzagu new lightweight bout is added. Onama versus Roberto Romero, risky or safe, and who you got for the win? Yakuzagu, my dude. One of my my regular viewers for the stream, Yakuzagu. Um, okay, the short is coming out in a couple of minutes. What time is it? It's coming out in a couple of minutes or hours. Yeah, in a couple of minutes. But let me just give you my view on that particular fight. Um, I mean, David Onama is clearly the better fighter here. Finishing rate, had full camp. He has more experience in the UFC. Like, there's so many things that I feel like are advantageous for him. So my subscribers and I feel like this fight is very safe. I think my subscribers said this fight is 85% safe, and I said it's 70% safe. So yeah, I think it's one of the few fights on the card that are pretty safe. Like I was saying, if you want to understand what I'm talking about, just go to the video section. For those who are new to the channel, go to the video section. There are risky and safe predictions on that particular section. So Yaguzagu, I hope I answered your questions. So if any of you have any input, because ultimately this whole stream is not necessarily about me telling everyone what to think. It's basically me actually trying to have a conversation with the MMA community, which is basically why I started this channel. I'd like to actually hear what you guys have to say. But that's basically my opinion. I feel like Jon Jones is one of. Actually, I made a list on the channel actually, ranking the greatest fighters, combat sports athletes of all time, whether it's boxing, whether it's wrestling, whatever the case is. I made a list actually. There's a list on the channel, and the top five on that particular list. At number five, I think it's Mike Tyson. Number three is GSP. Oh no, number four is GSP. Number three is Jon Jones. Number two is Bruce Lee, and then number one is Muhammad Ali. So, and I made that list based on achievements. It wasn't me giving you a list of my favorite fighters. I looked at who has achieved what and how many other people have managed to achieve that. There aren't that many people who've managed to achieve like how many title defenses does Jon Jones have like I don't know 15, 16, which is insane. I think it's incredible. I don't think there are very few who come close to that. And the people who've even crossed 10 defenses, I think it's Demetrius Johnson. I think, is it Amanda Nunes? I'm not sure about Amanda Nunes, but I think Amanda Nunes is somewhere there. There are a few fighters who've managed to actually cross that. He looks like zero. I don't know what you mean. But yeah, to all my subscribers who normally watch me, I did the stream a little bit earlier than usual. I apologize. I know that a lot of them will be like, dude, this is not the time to do the stream. But I saw the opportunity and I just felt like maybe I should just stream right now. So yeah, that's my thought. I honestly don't think Jon Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall. I just feel like he has a lot to lose and very little to gain. So ask yourself in his situation, like, what would you do? Because if he fights him, he wins, he doesn't gain much. If he fights him, he loses, his legacy gets affected significantly. If he fights Alex Pereira, I don't feel like, even if Alex Pereira beats Jon Jones, I don't think it affects his legacy negatively too much because everyone will be saying, "Oh my God, Alex Pereira is so incredible!" Like he had like I think he has the record for the fastest or the most defenses within a calendar year, if I'm not mistaken. So Alex Pereira, and he was the middleweight champion. He knocked out Israel Adesanya. He has beaten numerous champions. Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, Jan Blachowicz. Who else has he beaten? Yuri Prohaska, Jamal Hill. I think so far, but the people that are coming to mind, it's 5 champions that he has beaten. So it won't affect the legacy that negatively, on top of the fact that they are both 37 years old. And I'm going to repeat this multiple times because I know I'm a predictor and I would like to think, I'm not going to say I'm the best, but I'm one of the best predictors on YouTube. Actually, in general, I don't think there are very few people who have like the kind of prediction accuracy I have. And I know that age plays a significant factor in the outcome of fights. That's why at the beginning of the stream I was asking you guys, I was saying that if Jim Miller was 35 years old, would you still be picking Damon Jackson? A lot of you, I'm 100% sure, would say no. We would pick Jim Miller. Why? Because of age. So I don't think it's fair for us to not take into consideration the fact that Jon Jones is old. Whether people like to admit that or not, whether people want to admit that or not, he is old now. And to me, it's like, I don't know, man. For me, I understand where he's come from, and he's just being honest about it. At the very least, he's not acting like he's not worth it, because he actually outrightly said, no, he is worth it. He does deserve all these opportunities. But for me personally, I'm not going to risk it. And it's understandable. I know that Alex Pereira does not have great ground game, which is a fair point. But they are both 37 years old. You see, if Tom Aspinall was 37 years as well, I think I would agree with everyone and say, well, Jon Jones is ducking him. But basically, we're talking about an old person fighting a younger person. I don't know. And I think a lot of people are upset because they don't like Jon Jones. Obviously, he has not had the best track record. He has been a really, really, really terrible human being throughout the past couple of years. And I agree with that. I'm not going to sit here and act like Jon Jones is a saint. Even when he seemingly tries to change, he somehow relapses. He has tested positive for illegal substances. I'm not defending any of that. I'm just saying, look at it from Jon Jones' perspective. You have one of the most dangerous fighters, young and in their prime. They haven't really achieved much except what a normal contender has achieved in their career, right? Because what Tom Aspinall has done is what normal contenders do. Like, if you remove the interim championship, Tom Aspinall is basically in the same position as Magomed Ankalaev, right? Magomed Ankalaev has beaten a lot of contenders. The main difference between Tom Aspinall and Magomed Ankalaev is that Ankalaev does not have an interim championship, and Tom Aspinall has a championship. For me personally, at least for me, that's the main difference in my opinion. One has an interim championship, the other does not have an interim championship. So it's like, for me, it's that way. Jon Jones beating Tom Aspinall is the same as Jon Jones beating Magomed Ankalaev or Jon Jones beating Cyril Gahn. All of them have never held undisputed gold, and at the end of the day, it won't add anything to his legacy, right? Unless if somehow Tom Aspinall goes on to have like 5 title defenses and becomes the best heavyweight in history, which is a gamble because no one really knows if that's even going to happen. We are just assuming based on the fact that, oh my God, is incredible. And I would like to say this, I almost forgot this. Last year, there were people who were trashing me for picking Tom Aspinall over Sergey Pavlovich. I remember this. People were like, "Oh my God, are you stupid? You don't know what you're doing. You should stop doing predictions." That's the comments that people were telling me. I started my channel last year, February, right? And then the fight between Tom Aspinall and Sergey Pavlovich happened in November, I think, last year. November, December, somewhere there. And I picked Tom Aspinall to beat Sergey Pavlovich. And then now, all of a sudden, after a year, people are like, Tom Aspinall is the GOAT of the heavyweight division. Last year, they were saying the same thing about Sergey Pavlovich, right? That's what they were saying. The videos are on my channel, actually. I even forgot about that. I'm going to respond to everyone in the comment section. I just want to get the things that are in my head out of my head. But last year, I need to make sure that people remember this. Last year, when Sergey Pavlovich was fighting Tom Aspinall, everyone was saying Sergey Pavlovich is going to run through Tom Aspinall. I remember it very clearly. And I was telling people, I don't know. I feel like Tom Aspinall is a little bit better. But They were trashing me, and they even trashed me again this year. You know, people. They even trashed me again this year when I picked Alexander Volkov to beat Sergey Pavlovich. They're like, "You're stupid. You don't know what you're doing with predictions and everything like that," which is fine. But my point is, people, the same way people are viewing Tom Aspinall now is the same way people were feeling about Sergey Pavlovich last year. So who knows what the situation will look like in the next year? Who knows? Maybe Jelton Almeida will be the new guy who's going to destroy everyone. We don't know. But yeah, let me actually reply to you guys and maybe bounce because it seems like he looks like um, Goken Aaron, Eric Anders or Weidman. Which one should I bet on? And you know what, my dude? The fight between Chris Weidman and Eric Anders is the same as the fight between Jim Miller and Damon Jackson. Those are very, very risky fights, and in all honesty, I wouldn't advise anyone to actually put anything on them because those are the fights that could go either way, in my opinion. So I don't think it's worth the risk. There are safer fights on the card that you can maybe look at, but at the same time, I'm open to the idea. I know that I'm sometimes wrong about fights. Last week, even though last week I got 100%, the week before I think I got 10 out of 13. And then the week before that, I think I got 11 out of 13. I can't remember. But obviously, I do get some fights wrong. So sometimes maybe you're right. Maybe Chris Weidman might win. I don't know. But I picked Chris Weidman, by the way. That's my pick. But my pick confidence is very low because I don't know if Chris Weidman is going to win that fight. I actually broke down the fights yesterday on my live stream. So if you want to hear my opinions and my breakdowns on those particular fights, just click on the channel. Look at the top of the channel. You see home, video, shorts. I think playlist, live. Oh, you'll see home, video, shorts, live, playlist, and then community. Just click on live, and then you'll see my live breakdowns. Basically, I do breakdowns every single week. Even tomorrow, I'm going to do an upsets predictions. But I've already broken down the entire card, the entire UFC 09 card. So if you want to hear my opinion on every single fight, you can go look at that. If you want quick predictions, go to the short section or the video section of the channel. But I feel like the Eric Anders versus Chris Weidman fight is very risky in my opinion. I don't think it's worth it. I mean, Jon Jones is probably going to win. Charles Oliveira, in my opinion, is going to win. I gave detailed explanations why I feel that way. Who else? Karini Silva is probably going to win. I'm worried about Mauricio Rufy, but Mauricio Rufy trains with the fighting nerds. He's probably going to win. Who else? I think is it Marcus McGee? I don't know if I'm getting his name right, but I think it's Marcus McGee. Even though I'm a little bit skeptical about the fact that he trains with people like Sean O'Malley because Kyler Phillips just lost a couple of weeks ago and he shouldn't have lost that fight. So it's hard to be confident in anyone who trains in that particular gym right now. But nonetheless, I think Marcus McGee has high finishing abilities. I think he has striking advantage. Like, I think he's going to be the better fighter all around. I think he should dominate that fight. So there are a couple of fights on that particular card. David Onama is one of them. I think David Onama is one of the safest fights on the card as well. So there are safer fights whereby I feel like Weidman and Eric Anders are very risky fights. But that's my opinion. You asked for my opinion. You can always not listen to me. Like I was saying, I honestly, people need to understand, and that's why I'm not bragging too much about the fact that I got 100%. Even though I got 100%, I need people to not look at me and think I'm going to get 100% every week, because it's MMA. That's not going to happen every single time. So I do get, like, that's why I made sure that I explained that even though I got 100% last week, the week before I got 10 correct and I got 3 wrong. I still got 3 wrong. The week before that, I think I got 11 and got 1 wrong. So I'm not going to get 100% all the time. And if you look at my results on UFC Noche, they were not that great. They were terrible, right? So I do have bad nights. So sometimes I am wrong. So if you have your guy, if you've done enough research on a fight, and if you believe that this person is going to win, then you know what, you can go for it. My purpose here is to try and give you guys the most accurate predictions possible and the best breakdowns, as much as I can. But I would like to emphasize that I do get some fights wrong. Don't let me getting 100% make you feel like, oh my God, this guy is the most incredible predictor. I'm not. I'm still working. My channel is just over a year old. It's going to turn 2 years old in February next year. So it's still not that old. So I'm still developing, I'm still learning, I actually even started getting good at predictions at UFC 300. Before that, like, my predictions were not that great, right? So I'm still growing and I'm still trying to get to a point whereby I can get like 100% regular. I'm sorry about that. I think it's the internet. I hope it's not lagging on your side. Let me actually pursue the other ones. Who's this guy? Ati Lakan. Jon Jones Ducking Aspinall like he is the boogeyman. I think I've went deep into that particular topic. I think I gave my reasons. Um, if if all the people who every single person who's saying Jon Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall, all of you should be betting on, what do you call him, Jim Miller. All of you should be betting on this, and it's trying to ruin everything for me. Anyway, so saying all the people who are saying Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, all of you should not on any young fighter ever in your life, right? Age does not mean anything to you, right? Like, it doesn't matter if Jim. This is one of the reasons why I never stream at work, because the internet is horrible here. I prefer to do at home, but I took a chance. But let me just finish my thought. Basically, what I was saying is, for every single person who's saying Jon Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall, they all need to bet on older fighters from now on. They must never ever say they are not betting on anyone because they are old. Because according to them, being old means nothing, right? That's the argument. So I think people have forgotten that Jon Jones is an old person right now. So you shouldn't blame him. When people like when people when what do you call him? When Nate Diaz was given Hamza Chimaev, you remember that? Nate Diaz was given Hamza Chimaev, and people were going off on the UFC. How could you do this? Nate Diaz deserves people around his age. Nate Diaz deserves to fight people who are like him, legends like him, and all these type of things. People have forgotten that this is what was happening. When Hamza Chimaev was scheduled to fight Nate Diaz, they were like, Hamza is going to destroy Nate Diaz. Why is it different when it comes to Jon Jones? Because Nate Diaz was, I think, around the age that Jon Jones is at right now. And Hamza Chimaev was basically 2 years young, 2 years older than what Hamza Chimaev was at the time. So how is the situation between Nate Diaz and Hamza Chimaev any different from the situation with Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones? I know there's an interim championship in between, and I understand that. But why is it okay for an older fighter to face a younger fighter when it's someone that a lot of the fan base hates, right? So that's basically what I was defending here. People go crazy when a legend, they were saying the same thing about Tony Ferguson when he was fighting um, Michael Chiesa. Like a lot of people went crazy when the fight between Michael Chiesa was announced against Tony Ferguson. And they were like, why is the UFC doing this to Tony Ferguson? He needs to be fighting like legends like him and all these type of things. So why aren't people saying the same thing about Jon Jones? What's the difference? Yeah, I know he's a champion, right? I understand that, but he's still old. It doesn't change the fact that he's old, and it's worse for Jon Jones because statistically speaking, there are very few champions past the age of 35. I'm talking about statistics. There are a small number of champions past the age of 35. The mere fact that Jon Jones was able to beat Cyril Gahn even after crossing that age, I think Jon Jones was like, when was the last time he beat? Was it last year? Yeah, so Jon Jones was around 36 years old when he beat, um, what do you call him, Cyril Gahn. And I understand that the heavyweight division is a little bit different than smaller divisions, but it's crazy to me for people were going crazy when Hamza Chimaev was supposed to fight Nate Diaz. People were going crazy when the fight between Michael Chiesa and Tony Ferguson was announced. The people were going crazy and saying, well, why isn't Nate Diaz fighting Tony Ferguson? They are basically around the same age. Give them fights around their age so that they can oh okay so that they can do really well in this particular fight as opposed to giving them young and upcoming as opposed to giving them young and upcoming fighters who are going to destroy them. But when Jon Jones says, "Can I fight someone my age?" all of a sudden it's, yeah, he's ducking this guy, he's ducking this guy, he's ducking this guy. It's not fair. I don't think it's fair. Even Israel Adesanya, if Israel Adesanya starts saying, "I want the big fights only," or "I want to fight people who are around my age," but obviously, unfortunately for Israel Adesanya, there aren't that many people right now, unless him and Kamaru Usman fight. I mean, they're the same age, obviously, because they have this African brothers thing going. So I don't think they are going to fight each other. But Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya fighting each other would be a super fight, And I wouldn't be mad at Kamaru Usman or Israel Adesanya requesting that. They have achieved a lot in their careers, and they have earned the right to say, you know what, I'd like this fight, I'd like that fight, and it's not wrong. The same way I didn't have a problem, but I remember I made a stream, right? Before I think I will sound a little bit hypocritical, but I would like to explain that. When Nick Diaz, I can't remember who he was scheduled to fight, but it was still someone younger than him. I can't remember. I apologize for that. When that fight was scheduled, I was like, the problem for me with Tony Ferguson and Nick Diaz is that they are performing like they shouldn't be in the UFC anymore. That was my biggest problem. And I was like, it's fine because I need them to retire. And if they continue to win, then they are going to continue to fight, and that's going to affect their health, right? That's one of the reasons why I was okay with that, because I was saying, you know what, Tony Ferguson is on a losing streak and he needs to retire. So if he wins, he's not going to retire because in his head he's going to feel like I can still do this. So I was okay with that for that reason. But apart from that, I'm for the fact that like I like the idea of legendary fighters being given fun fights. I don't want to call them easier fights. I'm for them getting fun fights because when you get older, it becomes a little bit difficult to compete at the highest level. And I just feel like it's unfair that Jon Jones does not get the same type of um, outpour that a lot of these other legendary fighters got. Tony Ferguson sacrificed a lot for the sport, and I understand why people were fighting for him to actually get favorable matches. Nate Diaz, the same thing applies. I understand why people were upset when he was matched up with Hamza Chimaev. I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem with the fact that why do certain fighters at a certain age are allowed to um, get favorable matches, but when it's Jon Jones, he's stuck in, right? I don't feel like it's fair. And when Hamza Chimaev missed weight, he offered Nate Diaz his whole entire purse so that they can keep the main event. Nate Diaz said no. I didn't hear anyone say, "Yeah, Nate Diaz is ducking Hamza Chimaev." In fact, everyone was upset at Hamza Chimaev. But all of a sudden now, Jon Jones, because he feels like I'm old, and he said that, like he said it himself, like I'm 37 years old. I don't have many fights, and the fact that when you get older, it becomes a little bit more difficult to perform at the highest level. So it makes more sense to fight people your age. At the very least, when he's fighting Alex Pereira, he's fighting someone his age. So it's fair. So even if he loses, we can't say, well, Jon Jones was old or, well, Alex Pereira was old. Well, obviously, if Alex Pereira loses, we're going to blame the wrestling. But at the very least, we're not going to go to the age. But if Tom Aspinall beats Jon Jones, the first thing that a lot of people are going to say, obviously, Jon Jones was past his prime. The same way everyone is saying, well, Israel Adesanya did not beat prime Anderson Silva. The same way people are saying, well, Jake Paul did not beat the prime Anderson Silva, which is a really solid point. If Israel Adesanya fought Anderson Silva at his peak, I don't know, man. I don't. I think maybe the fight might have looked a little bit different than it did. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the topic. I don't feel like Jon Jones is attacking anyone. The same way people were fighting for Nate Diaz to not fight Hamza Chimaev, for Tony Ferguson to not fight Michael Chiesa, for the same way people are discrediting Jake Paul for beating Anderson Silva, the same way people are discrediting Israel Adesanya for beating Anderson Silva at that age. It was not Anderson Silva at his prime. And I'm for legends fighting legends, or legends getting what do you call it, fun fights. You can disagree with that. That's fine. Let me respond to everyone so that I can bounce. Golken Aaron, man, Chandler looking scary, but um, I will go with Charles. Yeah, Michael Chandler looks like intimidating. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, he looks intimidating. I'm honestly worried about the first round, but I feel like, and I explained this in my final predictions. I think after their first fight, Charles Oliveira went on to fight Islam Makhachev.